The first two episodes of Ahsoka are now available on Disney Plus, and after watching them, I am happy to say this show is pretty good so far. I was fearful because of how the last couple of Disney Plus Star Wars shows have been, but also because of Ahsoka's role in the show, where I personally am not a fan of what happened to her in Star Wars Rebels. I loved her arc leading up to the battle against Vader, but the World Between Worlds storyline where time travel was used to bring her back to life felt like a cheap solution for a story that ended in a brilliant way. It didn't feel like Star Wars at all, and honestly I was not happy with it. However, as I started to think of why they brought her back, obviously the biggest reason is the money that comes with it, but I believe it is because she has a much larger role in the world of Star Wars than we ever anticipated. And this role has actually been staring at us since Season 3 of Star Wars The Clone Wars. So welcome to Big Flick Energy, as we discuss how Ahsoka wasn't chosen, but she is the one. I say this because we know Anakin was destined to bring balance to the Force, and he did, up until the sequel trilogy came out and ruined it by bringing Palpatine back, establishing Anakin didn't bring balance to the Force, and if he did, it was only ever temporary. The sequel trilogy, especially The Rise of Skywalker, did some irredeemable things, changing what the originals created. To me, the biggest was Anakin being the chosen one, because if Palpatine survived and was still running everything, was Anakin ever really the chosen one? Was he ever really meant to bring balance to the Force? Now, I believe Anakin was destined to be the chosen one, as prophesied by the Jedi, but for the sake of this video, as prophesied by the father of Mortis, who represents the balance of the Force. If you don't know what I'm talking about, let me give you a quick rundown. In the latter half of Season 3 of The Clone Wars, there was an arc where Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka are dragged into a mysterious object known as Mortis, and find themselves trapped in a land rich in the Force, where Anakin must choose between his destiny or his friends. In this land, we meet three all-powerful beings, in the Father who represents the balance, the Son who represents the dark side, and the Daughter who represents the light side. While there, Ahsoka is infected with the dark side after being bitten by the Sun. Anakin faces off against her. Obi-Wan meets the Force ghost of his former master Qui-Gon Jinn. Ahsoka dies and is brought back to life by the Force essence of the Daughter, bringing her back to the light. Anakin is shown his future, which eventually plays out in Revenge of the Sith, but later has his memory wiped after turning to the dark side with this new knowledge of his future. And ultimately, all three Force beings of Mortis die, which left me wondering, if when the Daughter died the Force was out of balance in the entire galaxy, that means these beings actually control the state of the galaxy and the pull of the Force. So if all of them are gone, does that mean there is no controlling being over the Force, and it's more anarchistic and free-flowing in either direction with no desire to find the balance? That's a question I'll answer later in this video. So Anakin was chosen by the Father, as the Father declared him the chosen one and the heir to his throne to keep the balance. But after their interaction and the Father's death alongside the deaths of the Son and the Daughter, things changed, and while Anakin was able to control both the Son and the Daughter, and was infused with the power of the dark side by the Son, only Ahsoka was infused with the power of the dark by the Son and the light by the Daughter. So is the Force free-flowing with no desire for balance after the deaths on Mortis? No, it isn't. It still seeks balance, but it's a constant pendulum shifting from one side to another, from light to dark, hoping to eventually stop in the middle at a perfectly balanced galaxy. Instead, there needs to be a new heir to the Father, and like I mentioned before, I don't think it was Anakin, since the balance he brought was only ever temporary. It's also not Rey, considering there's a time gap between her birth and the death of the Father, where there would be no balance at all. Therefore, given Ahsoka was literally infused with the life essence of both the light side and the dark side of the Force, that moment changed who the chosen one was, which could explain so much and actually makes Rise of Skywalker better, even if not by a lot, because Ahsoka is actually the heir to the Father. I initially made this theory thinking Ahsoka was the heir to the Daughter, as she was literally infused with the Daughter's energy to survive. However, if she was the heir to the Daughter as the light side, there wouldn't have been episodes 4 through 6, as Ahsoka could have kept Anakin away from becoming evil. It also helps explain why Ahsoka is one of the only beings to reach a standstill with Anakin in battle. It's obvious why Obi-Wan could defeat Anakin as he literally trained him, so he knew his every move, but Anakin knew Ahsoka's every move as well, and Ahsoka wasn't even truly training half of her life. But Ahsoka matched the Chosen One perfectly in battle in Star Wars Rebels. Only somebody so powerful in the Force could do that. Ahsoka has also proven herself to not be aligned with either the Jedi or the Sith. She obviously is not aligned with the Sith for many reasons, but she also literally said, "I am no Jedi," when fighting against Vader in Rebels. Dave Filoni, one of the creators of Rebels, The Clone Wars, The Mandalorian, and the new Ahsoka show, claimed Ahsoka's lightsabers are white to reflect her non-affiliation with the Jedi or the Sith. This is a sign of her being balanced in the Force, with no allegiance to the light and no allegiance to the dark. And it's not just her saying she's not a Jedi, which shows her being balanced. It's also the way she acts, where she says she will avenge Anakin's death, leading to Vader saying that revenge is not the way of the Jedi, which led to Ahsoka finally saying she isn't a Jedi. She knows this is not the light side of the Force, and she's fine with it, because she is instead keeping the ever-sought-after balance. Before this arc in the Clone Wars, Ahsoka was still rebellious, but it wasn't until after this that she questioned everything the Jedi stood for, and eventually altered her lightsabers to be white, showing no allegiance except to the Force itself, similar to the Father. Now, I still think Anakin has a role to play here, and a very important one in that. I see Vader actually being the heir to the sun, even though he's Ahsoka's master. He was shown the darkness he would cause by the sun and was forced to forget it, but it eventually came to pass and he led to the downfall of the galaxy under the Empire. He still showed emotion and remorse, similar to the sun, whereas Palpatine had no remorse, which in some ways shows the sun is more like Anakin than Palpatine. You could even say Anakin looks like the sun in a lot of ways after the skin was burned, especially in the Disney Plus show Obi-Wan. Then on the other side of the light, and the representation of the daughter, we have Morai, the bird who resembles the giant winged beast the daughter became in the Season 3 arc, but in a much smaller form, appearing more similar to an owl. One of the few sequences Morai shows up in is when Vader and Ahsoka face each other, which could be symbolic of the father, the son, and the daughter all being together once again, where the son defeats the father for a second time. Morai is definitely the essence of the daughter, and in many ways, the daughter tries to be a pacifist as much as possible. The layout of Morai as the daughter, Vader as the son, and Ahsoka as the father makes a lot of sense when you begin looking at it, and the fact that Palpatine returned, and we don't yet know the fate of Ahsoka, which could mean she is destined to keep the balance. Why didn't she play a role in defeating Palpatine either time? Because like the father, she is not to interfere in the way of the Force, and is instead called to contain both sides. But I also don't even think she knows her role to play yet. She's aware of Morai, but we've never gotten a confirmation from Ahsoka that she knows what Morai is and why it follows her around. Either Ahsoka isn't telling us something she knows, or she's just as oblivious as we all were, in not realizing her true purpose in the galaxy. I think in the first interaction with Palpatine, she just genuinely wasn't there for the final fight, but would have been had she known. I also think that's why she's still actively searching for Thrawn in her new TV show, because she doesn't know her role in this universe yet. But in the major time jump between Ahsoka and the Rise of Skywalker, if this theory holds true, I am certain she has learned the truth, and, for one, maybe was even the one to tell Luke the Jedi Order needed to end in The Last Jedi, as now we know she has a relationship with him through The Mandalorian, and in helping him build his new Jedi temple. Only time will tell, as perhaps this is brought up in Ahsoka, given we know Morai is to show up from one of the trailers, but until then, thank you for watching my video. Please like and comment down below if you think Ahsoka is the heir to the father and how it helps solve some of the biggest issues with the sequels, or comment if you disagree with this video. Thank you all for watching, and see you next time on Big Flick Energy.